Hey, everybody. Well, first of all, thanks to all of you for your patience. If you missed my weekly matchup show or my pick show this past week, you might have missed that I said that I would have my post-game show of OU OSU the day after the game due to Thanksgiving obligations. Hopefully your turkey holiday was terrific. Mine was, thank you. And yes, I watched the entire game, all 60 minutes, plus the overtime period. And I thought that 1988, a game that I was at in Stillwater for Bedlam, I thought that was the best Bedlam game of all time. The one where Barry Sanders and Mike Gaddis both ran for over 200 yards. The Brent Parker drop pass in the final minute. I thought that was the best Bedlam game ever. And you know what? I would have to say the one I saw on Saturday, that the sheer excitement of it, the sheer drama, you just didn't know what was going to happen until the very end. I'd have to say the one I saw on Saturday, that to me was the most exciting one of all time. And that's a game that 20, 30 years from now, people will still be talking about. Terrific game played by both offenses. You tip your hat to Oklahoma State because unlike the previous four Bedlam meetings in Norman, 03, 05, 07, and 09, where Oklahoma dominated those games, this game was a lot different. In fact, Oklahoma State never trailed in this game until the final play of the game. And if you ask a lot of people who watch this game, in particular Cowboy fans, they're going to tell you that OSU very well should have won this game. And they would basically have a pretty good case for that. For Oklahoma, I think it came down to a sheer heart, a little bit of Sooner magic, and basically the will to win. Down by 7 points, the final 6 minutes of the game, happened to drive the full length of the field. People are going to be talking about the terrific performance of Jalen Saunders. Great game he had receiving for OU. The big punt return he had for a touchdown that got OU to 38 after the 2-point conversion. People are going to be talking about Justin Brown. Great game he had receiving for OU. The fine play of Aaron Colvin from his corner position. Of course, Brennen Clay, the game-winning touchdown where he didn't go down. Blake Bell also running hard to tie the ball game to send it to overtime. In my opinion, though, to me, the MVP of this game, number 12, Landry Jones. And for Landry, his final home game as a Sooner, it ends perfectly. Remember last year in Stillwater, wasn't just a bad game overall for the Sooners, losing 44-10. Landry Jones got a lot of blame for that game. Heck, yours truly, I'll admit. I really pointed the finger at him because of the 4 turnovers, in particular 2 fumbles that led to Oklahoma State touchdowns. But the thing about Landry Jones, I'm not one of those Sooner fans that says that Landry Jones is no good, that says he's overrated, that says that he doesn't deserve any of the credit. I'm not one of those types, and if you've watched my shows over the years, you know that. Bottom line is that Landry Jones is a winner. He's proved that, and of course, these past 2 weeks, leading his team from behind in the fourth quarter. Look at what he's done in his career. 3,000 yards passing and at least 25 TD passes. 4 years. No other quarterback in major college football has done that. And his true impact in this game won't be felt until he's gone. But down 7, leading his team downfield, 17-play drive. Landry was involved, I think 16 of those plays, and then Bell finished it with the touchdown run with 4 seconds to go to even the thing up and send it to overtime. Landry threw for 500 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did have the interception off of Oklahoma State pressure, a regrettable pass in which Jones panicked. But by and large, it was a fine game for Landry, making amends for what happened last year in Stillwater. And by the way, if you're curious, Landry as a starter, 3-1 against Oklahoma State in his career. Not bad at all. Not bad. And best part is he still has 2 games to go. The game against TCU in Fort Worth on Saturday, and of course, the bowl game, wherever that might be. For the Sooners, they definitely got all they wanted from Oklahoma State. The Cowboys definitely came in balanced. Tom Monken, you got to give that Oklahoma State team credit because I'm telling you what, Joseph Randle, he was slick. He was very hard to stop, especially when Oklahoma State got in the red zone. They got in the id zone, I think, 6 times, got 38 points. So they were opportunistic, and Randle had 4 touchdowns in the game. Josh Stewart, if you don't know who he is by now, You do, because of the fantastic game he had receiving for Oklahoma State. Made a fantastic one-handed catch in the second quarter after Oklahoma tied the game. That one-handed catch on third down kept an Oklahoma State drive going. It would eventually lead to 7. And, of course, opening play of the third quarter, big touchdown reception, and then his feet did the rest. So Josh Stewart, Oklahoma had a hard time containing him. And, of course, Clint Chelf, third-string quarterback for the Cowboys, and he looked like he'd played in Bedlam forever because he looked comfortable out there, received a pass off a trick play, of course, did well with his arm, and also, too, effective with his legs. Quarterback draws that absolutely stymied the Oklahoma defense to death all afternoon long. Thanks to Chelf, Oklahoma State almost pulled this game off. So tip your hat to Mike Gundy and tip your hat to Oklahoma State because they came in, they got off to a good start, and gave themselves opportunities. They just couldn't seal the deal in the fourth quarter, up 7 with, I think, about 7 minutes to go in the game. Oklahoma's defense finally stiffened up and forced a 3-and-out, which would eventually lead to the game-time touchdown down the stretch. But Oklahoma State, they played with a lot of heart too, gave themselves an opportunity, and it was just one of those things where in overtime, that coin flip, if Oklahoma State wins the flip and plays defense first, who knows how it turns out. Maybe they go to a second overtime, and maybe Oklahoma State wins. You just never know. But Oklahoma wins the flip, goes on D first. Defense did the job holding Oklahoma State to 3. And then the ground attack, 2 plays. Miller gets about 5 yards, and then Clay, running over low and taking it to the end zone of sheer determination, wouldn't go down. And the Sooners, their first and only lead in this game. And I tell you what, second straight game, by the way, that the Sooners involved in a game in which the teams combined for 99 points. Last week, it was 50-49. This week, 51-48. It was a game in which the Sooners got away with some lethargic defense. Missed tackles, missed assignments. Front 7 again had it pretty darn rough. Third straight game that the defense has had issues. And no question, during this offseason, when it comes to recruiting, defense has got to be a big, big emphasis, in particular at linebacker and also, too, I got to think, at defensive ends. Not enough pressure on the quarterback. We didn't really see the pressure until the fourth quarter, and that primarily came from the defensive backs. So it's just one of those things where right now this Oklahoma defense, which we thought was going to be improved, and it looked like it was until we hit the month of November, and it's been pretty rocky roadish for Mike Stoops' D. Must see improvement next year because if you're going to play for national championships, which is where OU wants to be, it's got to start with the defense because offensively they've got the tools to do it. They've got the weapons. But right now the D's not giving him a whole lot of opportunity to make that happen. So the Sooners survive another rough defensive day, and they do find a way to get the job done. Let's go ahead and grade the offense, defense, and special teams real quick. Offensively, I'm going to go B+ for Oklahoma. Moving the ball was not a problem for the Sooners on this day. They were able to move the ball very effectively. It was basically finishing off drives, at least in the early part of the game, where OU had fits. OU had been a pretty good red zone team, scoring at least, I think, 72% of the time. They got touchdowns at least 72% of the time. In this game, they had missed opportunities at least 2 times, didn't come away with any points at all. One off a fumble, and another time a missed field goal by Honeycutt. At least as the game progressed, though, they seemed to get a little bit better in the red zone, but in the beginning, just couldn't get touchdowns, something that they're accustomed to getting to when they get inside the opponent's 20-yard line. You could say OSU took chances with blitzes, or you can just call it a lack of Oklahoma execution with drop passes. Can't give them an A, but pretty darn close to it. Again, when you score as many points as OU did, and you can rack up 500 yards of passing, in all, over 600 yards of total offense. Still a pretty good day for the offense there. Defensively, it's a D. It was a bad day for the defense. I don't give them an F, though, because in the fourth quarter, they at least held Oklahoma State to a couple of 3-and-outs in the fourth quarter. And in the overtime period, they were able to force Oklahoma State to kick a field goal. Of course, at that point, with Oklahoma getting the ball down by 3, you're thinking just get 25 yards, get to the touchdown, and then that's the game right there. So the Oklahoma defense, when they had to, stepped it up, made plays, but overall on the day, yeah, it was a rough day at the office for the Crimson and Cream on the defensive side. Of course, Oklahoma State's offense, you give them credit because they were balanced, but at the same time, OU still had missed tackles and missed assignments. And for the third straight week, it was rough for those guys. Special teams wise, A- for Oklahoma. There was the missed field goal by Honeycutt early on, but he did make his 3 other attempts. The coverage was pretty darn good as well for the Sooners. And they also had a decent kickoff return as well, which would lead to a score. Of course, the big play, the big dynamite play for OU early in the fourth quarter, the big play by Jalen Saunders returning a punt all the way for a touchdown after the 2-point conversion. That made it 38-38, monster play. Crowd went crazy at that point. Special teams, again, has been a weapon for Oklahoma this year, and that was confirmed in Bedlam on Saturday. So overall, I give the Sooners a B-. It definitely wasn't one of their best games that they've ever played, certainly not on the defensive side, but the bottom line is outscoring your opponent and giving yourself an opportunity to win. They definitely did that. The defense was clutch when they had to be, giving their team a chance to get the ball back down by 7, drive it the length of the field. OU executed, and of course, in the overtime, the Sooners executed as well. So the Sooners now move to 9-2. Before we wrap it up as far as the Oklahoma side of it, for Oklahoma State, they played in a lot of classic Bedlam games, and in a lot of those games they have been on the losing side, but I guarantee you this probably has to hurt the most because this is one of those games where, again, they didn't trail until the final play of the game. So you know from Mike Gundy and the staff this one hurts, and you hope for their sake they can bounce back next week. Just like this game Saturday in Norman against Oklahoma, the game in Waco on Saturday against Baylor looks like one that could feature a lot of points. It looks like a track meet big time between Oklahoma State and Baylor on Saturday. In Waco, Baylor looks like they got bowl eligible with their win in Arlington against Texas Tech last Saturday. So Oklahoma State and Baylor should be entertaining. And for Oklahoma, they're at 9-2. They'll try to get to double digits of wins at 10-2. But it won't be a picnic because you're playing at TCU on Saturday. And TCU in the past has given Oklahoma some fits. Horned Frogs pulled off an upset last Thanksgiving night against Texas, winning in Austin. TCU's offense may not be all that dangerous, but their defense is pretty darn good. OU better be ready to play in Fort Worth on Saturday. We'll go over OU's BCS possibilities because there were some top 25 losses this past week, and we'll even talk about on the weekly matchup show between OU and TCU later this week, possibility that maybe even Boise State could steal Oklahoma's BCS at-large spot. Boy, wouldn't that stink big time. Boise State's moving up in the BCS standings. Even a 2-loss Boise State team could end up finishing in the top 16. And if they do that, they could very well finish ahead of the Big East Conference champion. That could give Boise State a BCS at-large bid, and that could steal Oklahoma's spot. But we'll talk a lot more about that coming up on the weekly matchup show, which will be either Tuesday or Wednesday. So check back with us, please. Final score again, first ever Bedlam overtime game, and it goes to Oklahoma in a thriller, 51-48. Ain't college football a bargain? Boomer Sooner.